I get so many questions on this channel about the housing market. When is the housing market going to crash? Will the housing market crash? What's up with the housing market? And the problem is the housing market isn't a singular entity. It's not the housing market. It's a smorgasbord of smaller regional markets, and within those regional markets, smaller local markets. And the difference is pretty stark as you move across the country. So since I get so many of these questions, and there's really no correct way to answer that because it varies so much by geography, I decided to bring in a couple of my buddies with me today. I have got Todd Sachs from Sachs Realty, and I've got Travis from Real Estate Mindset are with me. And we're going to talk about what we're seeing in local markets. Todd is a realtor. He runs a real estate office in the Northeast and Maryland. And Travis is a loan officer and has a lot of experience in real estate and boots on the ground research done throughout the entire Sun Belt as he's been traveling around the country. So we're going to talk about what those regional markets are and the big difference, because I think we're going to get some very different scenarios painted by each of these guys as we're talking. So first of all, thank you both for being here today. Todd, I want to start with you. Let's talk about what's going on in your market. But before we do that, I want to share my screen here, and I want to show everybody Todd's channel. This is Sachs Realty on YouTube. Todd's got a fantastic channel. I was just on this channel last night. We did a live stream. It was a really good time. Thank you for the invite down to your studio, Todd. And so you can check this out. I'm going to put a link down in the description below. Definitely subscribe to that, and definitely tell him that nobody sent you. Now, Todd, let's talk about what you're seeing at Sachs Realty in the Northeast and in Maryland. What is up with the housing market? Is the housing market crashing? Will the housing market crash from your Maryland point of view? What's going on there?
Well, Jack, I appreciate you having me on your channel, and I want to say thanks to Travis for representing Sachs Realty. We love Travis. He's wearing one of our jackets. I think he just likes the way it feels. It's just some cool stuff, man. You know,
merchandising.
Yeah,
Gotta love
I love
it.
I love it, man.
Yeah, so good to see both of you. You know, it's a very interesting tale of what's happening right now, and even in our local market here, which is Maryland, but I really speak from a mid-Atlantic area. And even up into the Northeast, because we do have a lot of the data in our Bright MLS. It's our local MLS. There's over 1,000 multiple listing services throughout the country, but Bright MLS covers a pretty broad footprint, and that's what we use. So it's almost like a tale of two cities, even within the state of Maryland, because what we're seeing is we're well into the second quarter and well into the spring market, and we just have really no inventory to speak of, no move-in ready inventory. And when we do get that inventory that hits the market, depending on its price range, well, regardless, it's getting absorbed quickly, but depending on its price range really is showing us the state of the buyer that's out there right now. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So what we're seeing is that if a house is priced, I'm going to say up to about $450,000, that buyer, regardless of whether they're a first-time buyer or not, most of them are first-time buyers, but regardless of whether they're a first-time buyer or not, that buyer we're finding needs seller assistance, because the payments right now with the higher interest rate that we've seen over the last several years, they're kind of knocked out unless the seller can give them some type of contribution. So we're seeing, even though we're getting multiple offers, that price point, the 450 less, we're seeing a lot of now FHA buyers, not so much conventional buyers, which means that they may have a little bit more issues with their credit, or their buyability as far as the lenders are concerned. And they're asking, this buyer is asking for up to 6% back from the seller, even if it means bumping the list price up. So that's sort of like their strategy. So let's just say the house is for sale for $380,000. They may say, hey, we want to do $405,000. We'll give you $405,000, but we want $15,000 back. So that's kind of what we're seeing now. When we get over that price point, we're seeing the real qualified buyers at that point. So I'd say, let's just say over 450, but more specifically, probably in the 600,000 or 700,000s, all the way up to about 1.5 million. We're seeing where this buyer is highly qualified, still multiple offers, but we're seeing a lot of cash because this borrower either has a lot of money down so that they're lessening the impact of 7.5% interest rates, or they have the cash. They're selling off assets, other assets like stocks, to buy the house in cash, or they're borrowing the money completely from a relative or their mom and dad. They're actually putting still notes. This isn't gift money. This is where we're actually seeing the parents or someone writing them an untraditional kind of loan at a much lower interest rate to get the house payment down to what they're more comfortable with. We're still hearing the narratives and seeing the push for, date the rate, marry the house. It's a terrible narrative. I don't like it at all. A lot of loan officers are doing that locally, Jack. Travis, you might even be experiencing that where you are. I know you are a loan officer, but I know you don't say that. But people still aren't being brutally honest with the buyers, letting them know that they may not be able to refinance their house should they not have the equity, or when rates do come down to refinance, or rates just might not come down to a point for a long time from now. Which is kind of what I believe that, before to be worthwhile refinancing. So, not the traditional spring market. I think it's actually a little bit better than it was last year as far as sales. Inventory is up. We've gone from about 1.7 months of supply to about 3.5 months of supply. Still very low. A buyer's market would really be considering when you get to about 6 or 7 months of housing supply, that is technically becomes more of a buyer's market. But I'm sure Travis is going to report in his area, we don't have the new construction. So even though I know a lot of the other parts of the country are crashing hard, we're not getting that so much here in our area because of the job market. Government jobs are so strong, and we don't have the new construction in the numbers that you're seeing in the Sun Belt and the Midwest that is really forcing these builders to drop prices. I will say, though, we have negotiated with the new builders that are building here in Maryland. I was just able to negotiate a really good deal for my client on a townhouse that was listed at, they were trying to sell it at $513, and we were able to get in it for about $490. And, so we did beat them up on some pricing, as well as we were able to get another $10,000 towards closing costs. So you can negotiate with the builders out there. Highly recommend, that you, use an agent. Don't go in these new construction models alone, or if you do, let them know you have a real estate agent and shop for a real good negotiator to support you in your negotiations.
But thank you very much for that, Todd. A couple of things jumped out at me right away. The first thing you led off with is no inventory, right? Which has kind of been the dominant narrative in the greater housing market for the better part of 4 years now. No inventory. You mentioned any inventory that does show up gets absorbed quickly. All right. So that's kind of the prevailing winds within the housing market that we've seen nationally for the last couple of years. It also jumped out at me that you said better than this time last year. So still moving upward, 3.5 months of supply. That shows, okay, the inventory's climbing, but still a seller's market, right? 6 to 7 months is that important crossover there. Not a lot of new construction. I think Travis is probably going to paint a different picture in his market in a minute here. Also, you notice that you kind of brought up the bifurcation there that we talked about on your channel last night in the discussion of consumers, where you noted a stark contrast between the lower end buyers, which I can't believe we're talking about $450,000 homes being lower end buyers, but hey, it's 2024. Here we are. versus on your higher end where you got a lot of cash rich buyers, asset prices at all-time highs, they made money in stocks and other assets. Do you think um, the lower end, the struggling buyer down there, is going to drag down the luxury buyer a little bit? Is there going to be a downward pull on those higher end prices because of what the new buyers are struggling with?
Honestly, that's a real good question. I don't think so. I think that even on the lower end buyers, they're still qualified to get the loan. And they're still, in a lot of cases, pushing those numbers up because we're seeing the appraisals are the houses are appraising. So despite, looking at the scenario that I provided with the $380,000 house that they offered them $405,000 to get $15,000 back towards closing costs, those houses are appraising. So what's happening is it's kind of hard. So what we're seeing is that ultimately is pushing the comparable sales even higher, which is supporting what we're seeing in the higher priced homes that are also selling at list price or higher. What we do know, the way that this market would shift, and there is a lot of slowdown happening. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to paint the picture that America is doing great here in the Northeast. Maybe we're doing better than many other parts of the United States because we are very strong in government jobs. So either government employees or government contractors at whatever level. If they're a independent business that's contracting with the state or federal government, we have both here in Maryland and Virginia and D.C. and so what we're seeing is that people don't know what to do with their money, their cash, because they're afraid of their cash. They're afraid that inflation or that banks, with the banking industry being in the news, they're taking that money that they have, that cash that they have, and they're trying to securitize it by investing in a nice property. These are all indicators that, at least in our area, it is really stabilizing the market. But that can change. What we have noticed, and Jack, you and I spoke about this last night, is that the construction industry is halting. It's completely slowing down. So though what you're talking about with the people that have the have-nots, even the ones that have, though they are buying up the real estate, they want it to be move-in ready. That's what's commanding the top dollar on great lots in great areas. And they're not doing anything, or even if they need to renovate something, they're just electing not to do that. So they're securitizing their cash. They're buying the nice property, the real estate, even though they may be paying more than they should right now. They're sort of protecting their assets at the same time, not spending what they don't need. So I don't want to say that it's great, because this market can change in a minute, right? So what's happening in Travis's area or other parts out west, though it's not happening here, it certainly could. And we're very mindful to that, what could be an explosion in inventory by, rates lowering, where, the golden handcuffs, as we've talked about, come off, with, people being okay with giving up their 4% mortgage, or as we're seeing communities and counties and towns, forbidding things like short-term rentals. That inventory is still out there that could come on the market. And then as we're seeing the new tenant landlord legislation that's even being proposed, is scaring the hell out of a lot of landlords, where it will make it very difficult to get tenants out, especially ones that aren't paying your bill. Because, here in Maryland, they have, they want to stop, I believe they want to stop evictions. So a lot of these, where we're in an area that has a high investment, total as far as, investment real estate, a lot of numbers. We could see a lot of single family houses come on the market here in short order.
So market doing pretty well, but it's hanging by a thread, if you will, or it's delicate. It's an illiquid market, and so illiquid markets are notoriously volatile. Now, Travis, Todd mentioned one thing that I'm sure you're going to zero in on: construction halted. And I think I've seen some of your videos, fantastic stuff on the building going on. So before we get into, though, your local market, I promised I'd give you the plug. Here is Travis's channel, Real Estate Mindset. And guys, I hope you want bonkers, because that's what you're going to get when you go to Real Estate Mindset. Travis is the single most bonkers channel in real estate on YouTube. And here is his channel right there. Again, link down in the description. Check that one up. Travis is a stand-up guy. He does a great job. He travels all over the country. He's got his drone that's documenting what's going on and all the building that's going on out there. So, all right, Travis, Todd talked about what's going on up in the Northeast. We got a pretty strong market. We got sellers starting to make some concessions on the lower end. Upscale buyers doing really well. Construction halted. What do you see in Texas and these Sunbelt states that you've been visiting? Is it the same thing going on there?
Well, I think, Todd hit the nail on the head when he was talking about inventory. I'm just so happen to be in one of the #1 metro areas in the nation of top new construction activity. And so I have new construction activity basically blossoming at every corner. And I'm going to show you that here in a second. But first, I wanted to explain why I'm wearing this. Now, you guys know that I beat up realtors all the time. The reason I'm wearing this sweater is because I believe in Todd. Todd demonstrates time and time again his actions. He demonstrates that he cares about his clients, and that's why I'm wearing this. In fact, Todd, I had someone ask me to represent them yesterday in Houston, and I denied them. If you guys want me to represent you, go to his website. Todd has a network. I'm not going to represent you. Go to Todd, and that's why I'm wearing this. But Todd's also right. You guys are both right. You're on mute, Jack.
That's I was gonna say, get a Zoom, you two. Listen, look at this, man. I'm clearly not involved in hey, let's all wear the same thing click that you guys got going on here. But no, I think it's adorable what you guys have going
Jack.
on. Attention, you can cut it with a knife.
It's not that.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah,
we'll get you one too.
Oh, I have one. I just didn't put it on for this one, but
it's Jack. It's not that, man. I'm just desperate to find great realtors. I mean, I'm desperate to find great realtors, and I believe that Todd is one, and I represent that, and I support my friends, and each of you are not only my colleagues, but my friends. But
there's no shortage of bad realtors out there either, is there? There's it's one of those dime a dozen industries where during good times, a lot of people get into the business that really have no business being in it, isn't it?
I mean, it is what it is, man. I mean, it's an absolute joke, in my opinion. I don't want to bash people, but what I will say is the housing market right now, you cannot put any blanket statements. It is an extremely divided housing market. It's definitely a tale of two tales. And even in places like Texas that are leading the nation in price decline and inventory, it's still a tale of two tales. Subdivision analysis, I preach all the time, is really the way you get hyper-local data. A lot of people don't do that. They see a price cut. They assume that price cut is bringing a property under market value, when a lot of times that's not accurate. And so where I wanted to start, Jack, is explaining how Texas is leading the nation. So is it okay if I share my screen? So I want to start by explaining that, new construction is fueling what's happening in Texas, and it's fueling what's happening in a lot of other states that are experiencing a softening housing market and price decline. And I wanted to, you guys to pay attention to Houston. Houston is the #1 metro area. So for new construction activity. So I live in the #1 metro area in the nation. So it's great. I talk to Todd constantly. It's great because we constantly compare our housing markets. But I also want you guys to pay attention to the fact that 3 of the top 10 metro areas are all in Texas. And you guys, that's just new construction. So we have multiple top metro areas in the state of Texas that is fueling inventory. It's fueling more activity in the housing market. And so I believe as a result of that, Jack, that's why we see this right here. This is housing inventory. This is not counting pending. This is only active units. And so what you see here is Texas as a state. Again, this is macro data. You got to go hyper micro. You got to go hyper micro. I could preach about that till I turn blue in the face. Nevertheless, this macro data is essentially saying that we're now above where we were pre-pandemic. If you look, January 2020, we had 86,000 units. Right now, Jack, we're sitting at 95,000 units. So we are well ahead of where we were at pre-pandemic. But if we look at April of 2019, this is April of 2019, we had active units of 96,556 units, which means right now we're only under 1,400 units. So we're only missing 1,400 units compared to April of 2019. But the thing is in addition to that, remember, new construction is exploding. We have more new construction going on right now than we did in 2019. So we have more inventory right now than the summer and spring months of pre-COVID. That's happening right now, and that's happening in Texas. And let me show you guys
pause you real quick, Travis, while we're on that chart.
Sure.
So 2 questions for you. In some of the previous videos we've done on my channel, you've talked a lot about shadow inventory, a lot of near complete homes or homes that are finished, but they're just not showing up on MLS. Does this chart reflect that phenomenon?
No, this chart is only showing you existing homes. I've completely taken out new homes.
Okay.
So new home data inventory prices is a completely separate set of data. Now, obviously, when a new home sells, it then becomes an existing home, and then it would join this data if it was listed. But this is excluding new homes. This is what you're looking at is the only existing homes for the state of Texas.
And one more question on this. Thank you for clarifying that. This is in units available, housing inventory. Todd was talking about months of inventory, which is kind of like the industry standard. They when they talk about inventory, they're talking about months. I know that's hard to come up with a number on the fly, but if you had to guess what this chart is telling us in terms of months of inventory, can you make an educated guess on what that might be right now?
Given if we were to take the entire housing market, Jack, I would say we're probably at 6 to 7 months. But if we only look at existing, I believe right now existing is under 4 months. I think we're slightly under 4 months of inventory. But during the end of my presentation, I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you guys what months of supply was in 2017 so everyone can get off the whole bandwagon like, oh, we need 5 million freaking new homes. We don't. We need a little bit of new homes. We need demand to be stifled, and we need to sustain. And that's exactly what's happening in 2024 so far. And that's what we needed to happen in 2023. That did not happen because remember, in March of 2023, we had the bank term funding program. Obviously, that stopped contagion and that stopped deflation that we were having. But regardless, what you're looking at is existing homes.
Okay. Sounds like you anticipated a lot of those questions, and I'm just putting the cart before the horse here. So please continue.
I appreciate you. But let me bring up median sales price, according to Redfin. And I want to bring your attention. This is for the entire state of Texas. Texas actually peaked, and you can see that here, May of 2022, at a peak of median sales price of $371,900. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is currently the median sales price, as you can see on the upper left, is $344,400, which means we are down from peak, Jack, $27,500, or better yet, 7.3% down from peak as an actual state. Okay. Now, again, one of the reasons this is all happening, we are being fueled by new home construction, but also let's not forget the overwhelming unaffordability hit every single metro area. And so let me show you the median household income in Texas. So as you guys can see here, median household income in Texas is only $74,000. I mean, what are you going to buy with the $74,000? What do you get? Your car payment and your rent payment? I mean, $74,000. That's not a lot when the average sales price is over $300,000. These people do not qualify for the average or median priced house in Texas or in Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas. They don't qualify, brother. The locals don't qualify, and that's why you're seeing that. But in addition, okay, it's not only hurting, the existing, homeowners, but the future homeowners as well, because not only is that income down, look at this, man. The freaking eviction filings in Houston. This is from Eviction Lab. This is not perfect data. This is flawed data that you're looking at. Unfortunately, a lot of times we're at the mercy of this flawed data. But right now, you guys, we're 43% above average. So we're at 143% of the average pre-COVID evictions in Houston right now. You guys see we have a 10% eviction filing rate, a 23% serial filing rate. As far as month over month, we're at 154%. You guys, evictions right now in Houston is being crushed. Unlike I don't think you're seeing these same trends in Maryland, but we're certainly seeing it in Houston. And take a look at this. This is also really, really crazy. This is the poverty rate of Houston. Look at this. So I have the top new home construction, and I also have one of the top poverty rates in the entire nation, with Houston sitting at a poverty rate of 20.8% people under 18. Of overall, we're at 14.3. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on right now in Houston, but another thing that's crazy, and this is what, when Todd was talking, it's kind of like hit me in the face here. It doesn't appear we're stopping. It appears, in my opinion, we're speeding up with supplying and building new homes in the Houston area. And so I wanted to show you this because about 2 days ago, I went out to a brand new subdivision that's probably an hour and a half away from downtown. It's a D.R. Horton brand new flagship community. Okay, they're building 3,500 new homes. They've just broken ground on this. But let me show you, okay, I'm going to show you this real quick. Okay, so here's the map. Let me show you how far away this is. And then I'm going to show you guys where they decided to put this giant new build community. Okay, so obviously here's Houston. Okay, obviously downtown Houston. Now it's going to take probably an hour and a half to get to this community. So the community is all the way up there. And again, you guys, why not build a small community? This is a flag star community. And I'm going to show you guys, take a look at this. Let's zoom in a little bit. So what I've circled there is like them breaking ground. I mean, look, they're basically going to deforest that whole section. You see that? That's crazy, right? But let me show you where they decided it. And this is what I'm saying. It's like nothing they're doing right now is really making any sense. So they decided to build this right next to this industrial zoning complex right here. Okay, so that's all industrial. So that's your neighbors. Now, I was actually right here. That's vacant. Okay, that's a massive industrial warehouse right there. It's vacant. I'll show you guys that. But in addition to that, okay, you got the airport as your neighbor. That's the airport right there, you guys. So they're in between the freaking airport, industrial zoning, and it gets worse. There's a new home community right here, heavy competition. There's a new home build community right there. That's KB. And there's a new home build community right there. So what they're doing in Texas, at least in Houston, the number one new construction area, is that they're not stopping, you guys. I feel like it's spent to the end. And I think that we're going to see something similar at what happened in Las Vegas, where there were some of these new home subdivisions, depending on when they're started, that were absolute ghost towns. And so when I see in Houston and in Texas, these flagship communities breaking ground, when that same new home builder, D.R. Horton, has another 1,000 units, 2,000 units that they have to sell, it blows my mind. I want to sit them down and say, why did you decide to build a brand new subdivision in what's known as the locals as Methville? They probably had to clean meth houses out from the forest. Why did you do that in the front end of a recession? Why did you do it in the middle of all your competitors? Is this like an ego play for these builders? I don't get it. But what I can tell you is if you're on the sideline in Houston, and if you've been waiting with a purpose and you've been increasing your purchasing power, we're starting to see good deals. Not a lot. I want to be clear about that. And it depends on the subdivision, but I can find deals all day in Houston in a matter of 10 to 15 minutes that are showing homes that are priced under 2022 values. The key, Jack, the key is understanding how to read MLS, the multiple listing service. And if you don't have access to that, because remember, not all the new home builders report to MLS, you have to be able to work with the realtor. Todd's a bulldog, right? Like a bulldog like Todd that goes into those new home builders and commands the comp data. Because again, they don't report that comp data. So it's so, again, it's also a tale of two tales for buyers that care. Some buyers are like, we just want to move on with our life. And I get that. And they don't care about fundamentals. A lot of it's migration, and they freaking doom us. So I still, even though I'm showing you this, I still see migration coming in, Todd, that are overpaying for houses. And it's a horrible thing for the locals. And as a local here, I'm sitting back thinking like, that's one less buyer I have to compete with. The key is, again, is just the patience, understanding what you're looking for. When you find it, get it, and have the right professionals in your corner. And that's what's going on with Houston.
Plenty of construction, plenty of new builds going on. Two of the top three?
Three of the top 10.
3 of the top 10 were in Texas. You know what else I noticed in that list? New York was number 3. I found that very surprising to see a lot of new builds in New York. Where is left to build?
Now that in the sky.
that was cities, right? Not New York State. That was New York City. We were talking about metro areas. So I found that was kind of surprising. Inventory above pre-pandemic levels. That, in my opinion, is a major crossover. So big data point right there. The opposite of what we're seeing in Todd's network. So I think that probably the single biggest contrast between these two markets, I think, is right there in that inventory count. Texas and the Houston metro area crossing over that important pre-pandemic level. Prices down from their 2022 highs. I don't think Todd has seen that in the Northeast. We didn't touch on price very much, but in everything I've seen, prices are at least still at their 2022 highs or still moving up in the Northeast. What do we see? Evictions on the way up. Poverty rate is up. And you mentioned that migration, West Coast into Texas migration. I think that's probably driving the poverty line higher, not necessarily pushing more people down into poverty, but raising what the poverty line is, because as people with money move into an area, they tend to drive prices higher. So a big difference. And that's the whole point of this video, guys, that I wanted to make. And thank you both for sharing your unique perspectives and your regional perspectives on this. Is the housing market is not this one thing that moves in one direction by itself. Here's just two guys. We just talked about the Sun Belt in Texas, and we talked about the Northeast. We didn't even touch on the Great Lakes or the Midwest or the Pacific Northwest or the West Coast. Look at just the difference between these two markets here. And it just goes to show you, the whole, stop referring to it as the housing market. The housing market is this massive mosaic made up of thousands and thousands of local markets and dozens of regional markets and state markets. And each one has its own characteristics. So know your locals, guys, know your realtors. Last thing I want to mention, because Todd also mentioned a pretty good key, and I'd like to give everybody a little bit of a tip or, some advice at the end here. Todd, you mentioned that the buyers need assistance and that they're looking for concessions from the sellers. So I'll give you the first crack at this one. Are the sellers playing ball? Are they making those concessions? What do those look like? And maybe, the first-time home buyer could use all the help they can get. So maybe give those first-time home buyers some ideas of how they might get some of those concessions out of the sellers that'll help make those payments and those homes a little more palatable.
I do want to talk, if I can, though, a minute about what Travis was mentioning, because I think it's very important. Travis, you were talking about, and by the way, D.R. Horton is a spec builder. So they're one of the only new home builders that you can't pick anything about your house. You buy the house the exact same way that it's being built. They're a spec builder. So if they're building this particular lot with white cabinets, this particular lot with black cabinets, this particular lot with brown cabinets, that's what you get. You have no say. But I do want to say that we can't underestimate the new home builders, because they probably have some of the top analysts, Wall Street analysts on the planet. And, they know what they're doing. Okay. Believe me, for the most part, they have a plan. What I think everybody has to realize, and if you go to your county website, when you're mentioning that new home construction is happening next to an airport and next to an industrial complex, that's intentional. That's called a planned unit development. What they are proposing is to put things in, and look, this is not conspiratorial. This is a fact. If you look at, and United Nations came out with this concept of, and it's UN 2030. And if you look at and do some research on that, you're going to see where here in the United States, a lot of counties have taken almost exact verbatim wording about building sustainable communities, sustainable neighborhoods. You hear the term 15-minute cities. Their strategy in this development cycle, okay, these things are approved. There's a reason why it's happening. And when you look at why would they overbuild? First of all, the builders have a lot to do with the HOA regulations going in they're having them written, right, for that community that they're developing and they're building. And there's a lot of them that are allowing these for rent communities or a large percentage of these houses to be rentals. They know what they're doing. There are companies that will buy these where it will still save these builders from going out of business to where the numbers will work for rents. When you're looking at $74,000, I think is what you said is median income. That is almost double the nation's average in median income. Okay. So that's not bad income. So when you're looking at income, of 74,000, you did say 74,000, right?
I think it was 74,640. Good job. Man.
Okay. So
I gotta jump in real quick. He's right. I was questioning that number when he said that's almost double the median income. I just looked it up. United States median income $37,585 as of 2022.
Is that household income?
No,
I'm talking about household.
I'm guessing that's individual. I don't.
That's
think
individual income.
So I'm talking household income.
Okay.
So your household income 74,000.
Yes.
Okay. So at 5 times that, you're at $35,400,000 for a house to be affordable.
I didn't have my calculator. Do you want me to have it? I trust you.
No, I mean that's what it is. But anyway,
okay, yeah.
So I just want you to say, and I'm not being conspiratorial. Like I said, this is just fact. You can go on county websites. You can look at their development plans, what they're intending. They want more green space. That little bit, Travis, of area that they're going to mow down to build a housing community is inconsequential when you look at the impact that they want. They want everybody living in a very tight area, and that's how the development is called clustering. And that's really what we're going to see more and more as this sustainable, the desire for sustainability increases. But getting back to, the question, Jack, of buyers and sellers, and there's a lot of controversy in the news about the real estate industry at large, and we've touched on this in this video. You had said something about bad realtors being a dime a dozen, and you're not wrong. And the leadership has failed us miserably in our industry. I'm admitting that, but you can't take. I mean, not one of my clients has ever said that they weren't happy to have me involved in their transaction. Not one. Okay. And that I negotiated saving money in a community where they wouldn't have done it otherwise if they just walked in the door. But how do you save money I'll give two tips, one for buyers and one for sellers. If you're a buyer, you have to understand what the competition is on the property that you're looking at. You need an agent to figure that out. If you don't have an agent, a good agent, you're just calling the listing agents and they're all going to tell you this, the sky's falling, you better act fast, and that they have multiple offers and maybe they only have one and maybe it's not even a good offer. So you need an agent to sort of weed through what's being said. How many appointments have been scheduled? We can see that in our MLS most of the time. Is it a hot, active property? What are the open houses like? Somebody should be going to that. What is the traffic like when you're there looking at the house yourself with your agent? Are you seeing a revolving door? You can't be unrealistic with your offer in this market that we're in, at least in our region. But if you are in a situation where you're looking at a house that has been on the market for more than 7 days and they're still allowing you to go see it, chances are you have some room to negotiate. So look at the days on the market. Has it been on the market for 2 days? Has it been on the market for 10? That really predicates what you can sort of like negotiate from a seller. Now, if you're a seller, first of all, we're seeing everybody, and this is across the country, brokers that I talk with have a broker network in mostly every state. And we talk about this, as far as what's your traffic like? What are your sales activities like? It's true to form pretty much across the country. In the first 3 days, most of your buyers are showing up at your listing. If you don't have multiple offers or one offer in the first 3 days in this market, at least in the busy markets, you're going to 7 or 10 days with your house. You're going to be in trouble. So you better look at those first offers that are coming in the first 3 days if you're a seller and try and work a deal on one of those offers. Historically speaking, in the real estate industry, Your first offer is your best offer. And I'm going to tell you that that is probably true at least 8 out of 10 times. And if anybody sells real estate, they know, and that has been doing it for any type of period, they'll tell you the exact same thing, because that's your most exuberant buyer. The one that is waiting for that house to hit the market, the one that acts within the first couple days, they're your most excited, most wanting offer. Even if you're a seller and you don't like it, you better consider it, because if you don't have multiple offers, you better make that first offer work. And that's the advice that I have. And if I can just plug, go to our website, saxrealty.com. If you're in Maryland, obviously we're your team. We want to serve you, whether you're a buyer, seller, a tenant, landlord, whether you're on the residential side or the commercial side, we cover it all. Go to our website. If you're in any other state, like Travis, thank you so much, Travis, for supporting us. If you're in any other state, we have a map of the United States. You can click on it, drill it down into the city. And if you don't see an agent that's in your city, reach out to me directly. Send me an email, TS, that's for Todd Sachs, at saxrealty.com, and we'll find you somebody.
And guys, I'll put a link to Todd's website, his saxrealty.com website, down in the description next to his channel as well. Thank you for that. So days on market, pay attention. That'll just show you maybe how motivated your seller is. If it's been on the market more than a week or two, chances are you got a seller that's a little bit more motivated, maybe a little bit more willing to make those concessions. Also, the 15-minute city's making an appearance in this video. I wasn't planning to go there, but I happily donned the tinfoil hat, because it is the 2020s and all things conspiratorial are on the table in this decade. We shan't be ruling anything out. So little bit of maybe World Economic Forum, 15-minute cities, we're all going to own nothing and be happy, sprinkled on top of this one. Added bonus from this video. All right, Travis, your turn. Give me some of those seller concessions. What are some of the ways that a first-time home buyer can chip away at that unaffordable home and make it a little more affordable?
Well, first of all, if I can, Jack, there's no conspiracy when it comes to some Wall Street analysts being stupid. And my point is talking about these clusters, right? I mean, Todd's 100% right. But when consumers have another 15,000 options to purchase a new home and they have 900 communities, to me, it's stupid to put a brand new 15-minute city cluster in Tweakerville in the front end of a recession. And that's the point I was trying to make. Now, obviously, there's strategy, and it brings me to my next thing. As a strategy, especially in Texas, what consumers that are buying really need to understand is, okay, you guys mentioned PE ratio. That's very important. But also what's important is understanding as consumer how property taxes work and how homeowners insurance works. Because one of the problems, at least in the Houston area, is we get ransacked by hail damage, by hurricanes. And as a result of all of those claims that the homeowners are putting in, our freaking insurance is through the sky high, man. But not only the insurance, my own property taxes on the rental unit that I have is 3.52%. I pay $12,000 a year in property tax. So you got to pay attention to those things. And even more so, like what I'm doing in my market, and understand, like, if I go to Todd's market, they'll kill me. They'll kill me because it's a seller's market. But if Todd comes to my market and represents a buyer, Todd's going to bulldog every single seller. And so you have to understand your markets is really, really important. And so in my market, what I'm doing with my clients is we're asking the sellers, first of all, we're being mean as well. I'm teaching my people how to walk away, because we can walk away now, and we're driving prices down for our community. And we see that. I have that blessing. Whereas again, in his market, he can kick butt with sellers. Buyers are screwed. My market completely different. I listed my house as well, a little, basically about market value. I didn't get any offers. I didn't even get anyone to look to the house, man. I'm like, I'm ready to tap out. I don't want to be a landlord. This sucks, right? Even though, I'm making money. I'm like, this sucks. Let me just cash in. I'll just move on. I couldn't. No one wanted my house. So again, going back to the buyer, one thing I'm doing is I'm asking the seller to pay some or all of the closing costs. If a buyer qualifies for a conventional mortgage, the maximum they can ask for is 3% of the purchase price. FHA is 6%, VA is 4%, depending on the down payment on conventional, by the way. It can go up to 6% depending on your down payment. But I think, being that buyers generally are overextending themselves, they're spending a lot of money to move in, I don't think that buyers should be paying closing costs. In fact, every house that I've purchased, which is 5 houses, I have personally never paid a dime in closing costs. That's how I negotiate on my own property. I will not pay the closing costs. So I would definitely ask for that. But one of the biggest things—
Aren't transfer costs like $47, Travis, in Texas?
What?
Aren't transfer costs like $47 in Texas?
Like for title?
When you say you don't pay for closing costs, what are you referring to? Are you talking about loan origination fees?
I'm paying all closing costs. I'm paying any money out of my pocket that goes to a fee. I'm talking escrow account to set that up, 6 months of taxes, full year of property, homeowners insurance, everything but the realtor fees, right? Realtor fees usually on the seller. Well, we don't know what's going to happen in July. We won't even go there. I want to go there with Todd, man, but we won't go there in our lawsuit.
Another time, perhaps.
You guys but the biggest thing, man, is you, as a consumer, you got to freaking step up. You got to step up. You can't be buying real estate based on emotion. You got to be adamant about working with people like Todd that are bulldogs. That's going to be honest with you. And he may even beat you up a little bit. He's a tough love guy. We need more people like him. You got to find good agents. You got to beat up sellers, and you got to drive prices down. And that's what we're doing in Houston. And I feel like I'm leading the way. I mean, I'm out there, and Todd, me and Todd talk about this. He's doing something similar. I'm out there waiving my commission. I'll let the parties get to an impasse, right? Like, okay, we're done negotiating. And then I'll just swoop in like a knight in shining armor, here to save the day in some magical fairy tale. And I'll go in and say, you know what? We're almost there. I'm going to waive $6,000. I need the seller to come down $12,000 and match me on the purchase price. And it's working because these people aren't used to realtors doing that. All the sellers reps, and Todd can probably confirm, have their guard up. They're like, no, we're not going to give you more money. We're going to give you less money, right? And you guys, they're even saying that, Jack, there are, and I want to acknowledge this, there are still subdivisions here in Houston that are high in demand, that there's still not enough inventory for, basically there's too much buying demand absorbing that still. The interesting thing is, I noticed that more so in Houston area at the higher price points. So it's the craziest thing to me, price points anywhere from like 600,000 to, it depends on the area. Remember, it's hyper local, but anywhere from 600 to 800,000. It seems like it's busy as ever. It's the craziest thing. But again, the lower like 300-400, I see a lot, man. Even in the market, the local market I'm tracking in Kingwood. I mean, we have so much inventory as compared to where we came from and right before going into COVID. So I think people got to step up. I think they got to be mean. I think they got to be adamant and very clear what they want. I think they need to command the professionals and, step up, brother. And I'm not saying people aren't stepping up, but what I am saying is it's, in my opinion, and I've been through multiple cycles, it's never been a more important time to step up than right now.
I love this image of Travis, the realtor hero that I'm getting here. Like I'm picturing Travis steps into a phone booth, and in the blink of an eye, he comes out, the glasses are off, he's got a cape on, and he comes in and he closes that deal. Right?
That's what it feels like.
A freaking hero, Travis.
In my head, I am a hero in my own mind, and I wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. I got a kick out of that. And by the way, guys, if you're buying a house next to an airport in Texas, get a strong roof, because it's raining Boeing parts these days. So I'm just throwing that one out there. Not a good time to live next to an airport. You wake up in the morning and there's a piece of landing gear on top of your car or something. Wonderful things happening at Boeing these days. Travis, Todd, thank you guys so much for sharing your perspective, your expertise with us. Stark contrast between these two markets. No singular market here in real estate. You're talking Texas versus Maryland, night and day, the difference there. So know your local, be choosy with your realtors. If you're buying, demand some concessions from your sellers. They're out there. It seems like in both markets you can get that. So thank you guys. And again, I got links down below to both of their channels. Highly recommend you check out both of those. I subscribe to both of them. Fantastic real estate expertise there. And everybody, until next time, live small and dream big.